Alright, wanted to make a video here on NIO just because it's been a popular ticker as of recent, and this is just one that I really like to cover. I think it's an interesting company and it could have some really good potential in the future. So anyway, we had our big push up late December. Just a couple weeks ago, and really skyrocketing the price up about 70%. You can see that's the big gap here. And then we saw this retracement back down, which I had mentioned was probably going to be very likely based off of these other pushes that we see. This is about a 60% increase. This is a nice little 35-40% increase. So every time we have these big runs to the high side, we usually see a pullback down, consolidate, and then we push higher. And it doesn't really look as if this situation was any different. We had this big push. You can see here that we did have a lot more volume that was included in this specific push to the high side, but now you can see we've already retraced back down a good 23-25% of that gain, depending on where you pick your point. But where we're sitting now, it looks as if we've come down. I had mentioned the $3.25 mark as being a nice support, and if we look at this on an hourly time frame, we can actually see this week we came down and closed right on it, right around 325, and then after market hours we traded down below and actually tapped $3 a share. And then when we opened back up on Wednesday, we were right back around that 325 mark, and we have kind of pushed higher, and we're now getting squeezed on that 360 mark. We inched above 350 a couple times, but now we're stuck around 360, so it'll be interesting to see if we can pop through that. But just looking at an overall, so I'm going to go to the weekly for more long-term time frames. You can kind of see what it is that I'm looking at. I know it's a little cluttered. Oh, goodness gracious, let me zoom that back out. I know it's a little cluttered with these trend lines in here, but just bear with me here. So we popped above this 50-day moving average, with our earnings. That's what really moved this higher, and now we're retracing back down. So ideally, we would like to see this hold above the 50 and not pierce back down below it, and that's going to be right around the 290 mark. So that's really where I'm looking to see is if we come back down and we actually hold that level in these next couple of weeks. So when we move into like the daily, this is where I'm thinking we're going to see more of a consolidation period, since this was such a big boost to the high side. As far as the price goes, I would like to see this continue to consolidate and not deteriorate to the downside. If we consolidate, we hold the same price and maybe inch higher, that's a really positive sign. But if we continue to slowly go lower and lower, we break through these levels and break through some of these moving averages on the longer time frame, this might show a little less support than I initially thought. But I really do think that we can hold that 290 mark. Now things can definitely change from now until maybe when we get to that point. But here I have 280 as being a support, and then here would be roughly 290, and we could almost call this like a window of support. Between like 280 to 290, because we do have the momentum on a stock like this, especially when we can see these big swings in volume. With the volatility, we can see a 10-cent swing pretty easily. So maybe in between 280 and 290 would be a support if we were to come down to that level. But again, that's if we continue to deteriorate. That would be another 20%, anywhere from 15 to 20% to the downside. So that's just something to keep in mind. But where we currently sit, it was nice to see us bounce off of that 325 support, which we can see is marked here, and kind of move back up to the high side. I honestly would have liked to have seen a bigger pop from that. It was relatively a small bounce. It was only about 7%. If we were to take it from 3, then it's about a 10% gain. but I really would have liked to have seen if this really had a lot of momentum in it, that it pushed a little bit higher, maybe up towards the high threes. But looking at like the 4-hour time frame, this is where the RSI comes into play. I have this downward wedge pattern forming. If you were to look something like this, every time that we are tapping on this this downward trend, it seems as if we sell back down, and eventually my guess is we're going to see this squeeze to the high side, and we'll see the price start to accelerate up with that. Now, I could be wrong. This is just a scenario that I have in my mind that could potentially play out. So something to keep in mind. Just one more thing that I like to look at whenever I'm kind of picking apart NIO. But as we move forward, I would like to see this kind of again hold or slowly start to move up. But I would not be surprised if it were to come down and maybe bounce off that 3 mark or around 290 again. It just kind of depends on what's going on in the market, and what the feelings are of the investors in NIO, if they are confident enough to continue buying at this point. If we've set our bottom down here around 3, and that we are now going to continue this uptrend, similar to like what we did here, or did here, or here. So again, the overall trend over, say, the past 4 to 5 months has been positive, but we just need to continue to analyze this and continue to make smart trades and know where these supports are and resistances are, so we can make the most of these moves that we see. So hopefully you guys got something out of it, and thank you for watching.